it's 30-year-olds who are making the media and advertising decisions. They're not thinking about people 55, 65, 75. So if you don't have people in that age group in the room who know what someone their age is looking for in a product, what they need, those kinds of things, then you're totally missing the mark, because a 35-year-old does not understand the needs of a 75-year-old.
Well, hi, everybody. You know, I do want to say that the guest we have coming up has a completely unique point of view about aging. That from 50, 55 years old to 80 years old, we're just talking about extended middle adulthood. She's written a book called Keenagers about being very keen about the years beyond 55 as you age through every single one of them. And I cannot wait for you to hear her points of view as a psychologist, a gerontologist who focuses on middle age and beyond. So let's get started. And may I wish for all of you that you will always remain too young to be old. Hi, everybody. This is Diane Gilman, formerly known as the Queen of Jeans on QVC HSN, but now the proud host of Too Young to Be Old. And I'm going to ask you a question. Are you one of the many who actually has avoided thinking about older adulthood until it is on top of you and upon you? If you are, you came to the right podcast, because today we have an expert on aging, Corinne Auman. And she's a licensed psychologist. She has developed a philosophy called Keenagers, about being keen about growing older and being in that phase of your life, which I am. Well, hello, Dr. Omen. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So I would love for you to explain to our audience how you came to the conclusion that aging in a culture where we seem to willfully sidestep thinking about older adulthood, and in my own way, I was one of them, how you think we can embrace aging in a positive way, especially in a society that gives you absolutely no support in that area at all.
Absolutely. I mean, so how I came to thinking about it this way was through my work with older adults themselves. So I'm a gerontologist. I have a lot of training in working and studying with older adults, and I run a care management agency. When I started that agency, I really thought naively that I was going to be working with 50-year-olds who were caring for 70-year-old parents. What I'm actually doing is working with 70-year-olds who are still working and active and doing things, but they are caring for maybe 95-year-old parents. And that shift and realizing how unaware I was of what older adulthood is actually like, really, I mean, that opened my eyes to it. And I thought, if I am supposed to be this expert, right, on working with older adults and understanding older adults, and I came into my business model so completely wrong about what it was actually like, then everybody else has an ill-conceived notion of what it's actually like too. And so that's how I came about writing the book and coming up with this idea of Keenagers, and really trying to help, myself included, reframe how we're thinking about this. It is not the experience that your grandparents had of older adulthood. It has really shifted, and we will all be better off the sooner we realize that and start to embrace it as an extended middle adulthood, more years of being active and engaged and doing things, not this stereotype that we have that you hit 65 and it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, or you do nothing, or you really welcome doing nothing. I think it breaks down into two categories. Tell me if I'm wrong. The first category is you subsisted in a job all your life. that you didn't love, but you had a family to support, you had obligations. And then what do you do with your retirement years? Are you joyous because you don't have to go to a job that you were not fully engaged in? Or you're like me and you loved what you did your whole life. You were blessed. And I was in fashion and then got on TV for 30 years. And now what do you do with your retirement? That to me is the key. Key is honestly letting your people know, or our people, that you have choices. And this is a proactive period of your life, not one where you just sit back and it all washes over you. How has your attitude about aging and what to do with that extended middle age and then beyond from when you first started focusing on the aging aspect?
How has it shifted?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think first of all, just this realization that it is so different, and I think that's really good news, right? Like to realize how many people I know that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who are still doing things that they love to do.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they're still working. Maybe they retired and now they're doing a podcast, they're volunteering, they're caregiving for their grandchildren, whatever it is, but they're doing lots of different things. Realizing that that was a possibility was completely eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I want everybody else to realize as well.
So what do you think the most misunderstood aspect of aging is? Because society doesn't tell us anything. I mean, we're not told that we can be fulfilled. We're not told that we can be productive or even should be. We're not told that we can have a voice, which frankly, I don't think we have nearly enough of, and that we still have the power to hold our own and shift certain aspects of societal behavior to be more of a plus for us rather than a minus.
You know, I think that's one of the biggest changes in conversation I would really like to see. Like when you watch the news or you listen to anything that talks about demographics, right? And how demographics are shifting so that we have more older adults and fewer young people. This is always framed, or almost always framed, as just devastating, right?
Yeah.
You hear words like the silver tsunami, the gray wave. I mean, just this, like, we're all going to be crushed by this wave of older people. That is the absolute wrong way to look at it. Oh, because you always hear that about how many people are 65 plus and all this sort of thing. Instead, we ought to be thinking about that like, wow, that is such an opportunity. Think about how much experience and knowledge and opportunity there is for those people to volunteer, keep working, consult, do things in the world if they choose whatever they want. That is billions of dollars worth of opportunity.
Yes.
That people don't look at, that marketers ignore.
Totally. Totally. You know, I thought when I came off of 30 years on TV, I sold $100 million a year of fashion dedicated to women over 50, past menopause, fitted differently from any other brand. Year after year was the top fashion performance brand on tele-retail globally. I stepped back from that at 78. And I think, okay, podcast in front of a camera, talking, good. I like that. I want to go for anti-aging. I want to be an advocate for my particular generation. So we started applying for being a representative of a brand. We recently applied to a brand that I used to help regrow my hair after chemotherapy, radiation, and breast cancer, that should be dedicated to women over 50, 55, because menopause starts with you're losing your hair, the hair quality is terrible, it's breaking off. And this stuff really works, and I've now had 2 or 3 years experience with it. I'm on TikTok. I love TikTok. There's a million ads for this brand, live ads, and they're all women who are about 25 years old.
Who don't need that.
Right, and who have hair down to their waist, and they're saying, I noticed a few strands were coming out. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? And these people, we have sent them my resume on air. They know what I'm worth. They have heard my story. They know I have a story to tell about their product. There are probably millions of American women out there past the age of 55 who would like to see somebody they can relate to instead of looking at someone and saying, oh, they're 1/3 my age and they're bitching about their hair and it's down to their waist. Are you kidding me? And I can't get arrested. I cannot get arrested. We are the biggest generation on earth. And we have the spending power. We also have needs for specialized products that work for us, that fill in what lack of hormones, lack of absorption of vitamins may take away from us. But they don't want us. They don't want us representing them. Just find it, quite frankly, ignorant.
I was recently at a aging conference. The American Society on Aging just had their conference, and they had a keynote speaker, and he was talking about, this kind of opportunity, that sort of thing. And he asked several questions of like, who in the audience is in this field, or who in the audience is in that field. And he asked the question, okay, who in the audience is in media or advertising? Not a single hand.
No.
Not a single one. Nobody at that conference was in media or advertising. And he pointed it out. He said, this is a missed opportunity. And he made all the points that you just made about, but the problem is, and nothing against 25 and 30-year-olds, but it's 30-year-olds who are making the media and advertising decisions. They're not thinking about people 55, 65, 75. So if you don't have people in that age group in the room who know what someone their age is looking for in a product, what they need, those kinds of things, then you're totally missing the mark, because a 35-year-old does not understand the needs of a 75-year-old. And not only that, the only thing they can think about when it comes to older people are the stereotypes. So they're only thinking about marketing healthcare products because they think that's the only thing somebody in that age group needs.
Yeah, when you go to cable TV, the only time you see anybody with my hair color is if they're in desperate need of a drug to correct a situation that comes on with aging. It is so tiresome. We get no support, no positive PR, no backup, no explanation. That's the other thing from a medical community about how maybe food is medicine and maybe you should have a customized way of living that you should switch to when you get to a certain decade. Like for me, that is 80. I really noticed at 79 how much my body needed me to improve my diet and my sleep patterns, whatever. But we have no instruction. We have no roadways or lanes that are particularly for us that we can go down. You are talking about 52% of the American population. So when people start whining about, oh, this isn't good, and don't whine to me, because you're ignoring huge spending blocks. So tell me something, and for our audience too. You coined the word Keenagers. What does that mean to you? Why did you do that?
So I wanna give credit where credit is due. This word came about from a friend of mine's mother, who we asked, what would you like you and your friends like to be called, and it was the word she used. So I have popularized it with the book, but it's not my original creation. So I want to give credit where credit is due. But when she gave us that, I loved it because, the word keen means highly developed or really interested in something. right? And I
Yes.
think that is a perfect description of older adulthood today. This idea that they are highly developed and still very interested in life and in doing things and being engaged. They're not just sitting on their rocking chair on their front porch, watching the world go by. And so that's where it came about. The other thing about it, too, is I was trying to come up with a positive word to describe this time period, and it is really difficult to do that.
Yep.
If you just Google, or try to use a thesaurus for words similar to older adult.
So ask me on a beauty level about all the things that drive me crazy about the cosmetic industry as all of us, you and I, are growing older. And one basic point I will tell you is if you have made the decision to have natural gray hair or white hair like me, you can't find an eyebrow pencil in the right color. Oh, it's so weird. You go out into the market and yeah, there's like warm blondes and beiges, but that doesn't look right with salt and pepper until you get to Prime Prometics, which is literally the only eyebrow pencil on the market that comes in a gorgeous shade of medium gray. It looks natural. It is a very thin pencil, so you can actually feather in the lines. Very easy to work with and stays on for hours and hours. So if you want to bring your look closer together where everything melds and you want a more authentic look in your makeup, because it's so weird to put on your makeup and then have to put on a different color than your hair for your eyebrows. No, you do not have to suffer that way anymore. Prime Prometics, their gray eyebrow pencil, is superb and truly in an entire cosmetic market. It stands head and shoulders above the rest and is truly unique and tailored to us older girls. Thank you, Prime Prometics. And of course, go to primeprometics.com, type in our code, and get a discount. You are going to love this product. It is truly tailored for us older girls, and I am so grateful to have it in my life and my beauty kit.
So many negative words and a few neutral ones, but really no positive ones. Like the closest you get to positive is elder, which is kind of respectful, and active ager, right? Like my local senior center recently renamed itself the Active Ager Center or Active Aging Center. And okay, I mean, I get it. That is at least trying to take a positive tone.
Yeah.
But we really don't have words that describe this time period in a positive way. And that is what I was going for. And so we had to use a new word.
So, Keenagers, in its own way, is a redesign of society's view of aging. I have found a deep respect for salmon because I consistently feel like I'm swimming upstream. Seriously. And I had I will say this. You have a million different points of view about what you should do with your time and your energy when you're in your 60s, 70s, and now I'm about to be 80s. And you know what? All of those POVs are from people half your age who have no idea what is going on. And even for me, and I was always very interested in aging because I found I had parents who were much older than the paradigm for when you're born in 1945. So my mother was 45, my father was already 50. That's more for this period of time than back then. And I didn't like what I saw at all. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't think to myself that this was leading an outstanding life for some time, maybe beyond about 5 years old. I had a very keen sense that you should try to make every minute of your life special. So when I started to get older, I thought I don't want to retire till the very, very last minute. But even then, I was retired for 4.5 weeks and I was going crazy. One thing I would say, and I wonder if you agree with me, is be very careful about the decisions you make for your own personal freedom as you get older. And I say that because I started to go a route where I was very much immersed in people my age. And then I found it was like an age ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to get multi layers of decades around me for different points of view, for different energy levels, for different roads to go down, for different opportunities. And the one thing I found was that was really refreshing, and that your mind and your spirit can stay a lot younger than the rest of your body, but you need to have that diversity around you. Would you agree?
Absolutely. There's at that same aging conference I was at, one of the presenters was talking about intergenerational relationships and how important they are. And she gave a statistic that was something like only 15% of people spend significant amounts of time with people who are more than 10 years their junior or senior, other than like their direct family members. But like in their everyday life, they don't spend time with people that are more than 10 years their senior or 10 years their junior. So we're kind of age segregated. And when we do that to ourselves, it's like you only hang around with people who are like you.
Yeah.
And that's not good for you, right? Like you need that diversity of age so that you are getting those interactions. It helps keep your brain young. It helps younger people learn from people who are older than them. I mean, and it's just like any other stereotype. The best way to combat a stereotype is to spend time with people in that group. And when you do, you realize that, well, that's just a stereotype, right? These people are all individuals. They're all unique. And if you spend time with older people, you will realize they are not your stereotypes. They are very, very different. And the same thing with teenagers. If you spend time with teenagers, they're not all the same either. Even though we have these kind of like ideas that we just apply to the entire group. So it's one of the biggest things that I think we could do is, instead of kind of age segregating the way we do, setting it up so that there are easy ways to have intergenerational contact and relationships so that people get to know each other.
Yeah, we're going to do a very interesting thing at this podcast. We're going to start a new podcast, and I'll explain more to the audience in another podcast. But it's going to be called the 80-40 Factor. And it's with somebody I've worked with for almost 20 years, who is half my age exactly. She just turned 40 and I'm just about to turn 80. Mm-hmm. And how we look at major issues, like let's say time, differently.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating. You know, when I was 40, I would kick the can down the road a million times. At 80, time is my biggest ally and my biggest enemy and my most precious commodity. And I handle it and think about it very differently.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be fascinating to constantly ping pong ball those 2 points of view. And I think you have to do that. And I don't believe that there is any sense of fairness to the aging population we have, which we should honestly indulge in showcasing them, showing them off, talking about all the possibilities and how you're going to have to handle the second half of your life. We are the generation that is going to live to be 100. What are you doing with your time? I mean, I always say the same thing. You can't live to be 100 if your only motivation is you're scared of dying. You have to really want to, in a muscular manner, engage and grab this part of life and make it meaningful and legacy driven and have purpose and pleasure. I think that any of us having this discussion about aging are doing a great service for people who are out there and don't have enough information to have the motivation
Yeah.
and put it in.
Well, it's this idea, I think, if you are someone who has gotten to an age and you're thinking, quote, my best years are behind me,
Oh, I hate that.
then yeah, what is your motivation to keep going? If that's how you're looking at your life, right? Like you have to be framing it in terms of, no, my best years are ahead of me and I'm looking forward to this. And I just did a video for this for some social media stuff that'll go up later, but I just turned 50 myself, and it was really, really interesting to me what people said. Because I got multiple texts the day before my birthday of people going, this is your last day in your 40s, and this is your last day being 49, and things like that. And I'm like, so? Like, who cares? Like, I feel great about where I am, and I'm really looking forward to these next decades. And so, who cares? My 40s were kind of hard. Like, I've had all these kids, and it's been stressful, and I've been doing all these things. And I even had somebody look at me on my birthday and say, well, you got about 4 good years left. And it's that kind of thinking and phrasing. And I think people say it because they don't know what else to say. It's like our culture has taught us that these are the things you say to people on these big milestone birthday. You say, oh, this is your last day in your 40s or whatever. And it's like, number one, who cares, right? Like last year, it was my last day being 48 before I turned 49.
Yeah.
Next year, it'll be my last day 50 before I'm 51. I am lucky to have these birthdays. I am excited about where I'm headed. And that is the outlook I think we need to be having. And rather than saying to people, this is your last day, just say, happy birthday. Are you excited about, the upcoming year or whattever's going on in your life, right?
Yeah, people definitely put up false barricades against your next decade and what's going to happen there. Now, I was lucky in a way and not so lucky. My biggest success in a youth-driven industry, fashion and television, came at 60 years old. That's when I developed the middle-aged gene, the middle-aged top, and it just was like a rocket ship.
Mm-hmm.
Taking off. So I hung in there longer than other people did in my two industries. I benefited greatly from it. And who did I focus on? My generation, the woman over 55, who was so hungry for fashion solutions that fit her new postmenopause, I don't love my body so much body, and so grateful that somebody actually respected her enough to think about her and make these products. It was a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
And yet nobody followed me. They were aware of how successful the brand was. They were aware of the dollars we were doing, which was phenomenal. I took the brand international, yet it's still that hyper focus, that unbelievably narrow point of view about youth. And I asked once, because I knew an executive at Coca-Cola, they said, we want to hook our customer when they're about 5 years old. And then there's this huge swath of time where they're going to use the product. We don't care about a 60-year-old, 65-year-old customer. You're going to die in 5 years. What's that? 5 years.
No.
Nothing for us. Yes.
No, you're not. The vast majority of us are not. Like,
but I will tell.
Look at the demographics there. Come on.
Yeah. And that was a really quick lesson into the brain of making product and where you wanted to focus your emphasis. I'm so nonplussed by it. I think it's missing the mark and missing half the population. So for me, I just decided to take up the aging better, anti-ageism, prejudice battle. But we need to know the title of your book, please.
It's Keenagers, and that's with a K.
Okay.
Telling a new story about aging.
Yay. And I respect that so much. Honestly, Dr. Omen, I've enjoyed this podcast about in the top 1 percentile of all the
Wonderful.
podcasts I've done. It is really the right spirit at a time when we desperately need some encouragement and learned people forming a platform for us as 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old to take a deep dive into life off of.
Well, and everybody should care. That's the thing. Like, if you want to live a long time and if you care about how you are going to be treated and the life you are going to have when you get to 65, 75, 85, we should all care about how we are talking about aging, how we are perceiving it, how we are treating older people
How
today.
we are living it.
Yeah, because it matters. How this is framed impacts me. It's going to impact my kids. It impacts everybody. And the only way to change it is to bring it to the surface and to point it out to everybody and be like, really? Why are we saying that? Or why do we think that? Yeah.
I so agree. I want to thank you so very much for being on this podcast. Truly, it was completely informative, uplifting, inspiring, aspirational, and deeply enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young to be old.